For more on this story, we are joined by lawyer and retired U.S. Marine Corps officer Haytham Faraj. Mr. Faraj, thank you for your time. So, Israel's defense minister has openly called, as you know, for the elimination of Iran's supreme leader. From both a military and legal standpoint, how does that land? Is targeting a sitting head of state during wartime just a rhetoric, or is it legally defensible under international law?
Well, let's first thank you for having me. Let's begin at the beginning. So you have a man who is accused of committing genocide. There's verifiable evidence of genocide, who commences a war against a peaceful country that has not done anything to precipitate such a war. And now he calls for the elimination of not only the political head of the country, but the theological or religious head for tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions of Shia around the world. And so the short answer to your question is it's absolutely illegal under international law. It's morally wrong, but it is consistent with what we have come to expect from the terrorist named Netanyahu and the racist, fascist government that he leads in Israel.
And we've now seen Israeli strikes hit nuclear facilities, and Iran issue mass evacuation alerts. From your experience, does this look like a controlled escalation, or are we entering territory where the risk of miscalculation becomes dangerously high?
Well, there's another question to be addressed, and that is the targeting of these nuclear facilities is also wrong under treaties and international law. When you target a nuclear facility, you are essentially exploding a chemical weapon, and it's uncontrolled. So, no one is talking about this. We are engaging in the conversation about this war as if it's just a war between two parties. We forget that Iran was and continued to be following the requirements under the rules of the IAEA. It was in an agreement with the United States in the Five, and it did not withdraw. It was the United States that reneged. It's Netanyahu that has continued for over 2 decades to claim that Iran is only weeks away from a nuclear bomb, which has also been untrue. So is this a controlled escalation? I can't say. It seems to me that Iran is controlling its escalation. They have smartly dwindled the number of interceptor missiles through a system of low-quality rockets and drones, and now they are effectively better targeting with their ballistic and hypersonic missiles. Israel has an intelligence advantage. They certainly have the advantage in the air. That's why they were able to assassinate so many leaders illegally, I will add, because they don't have a right to assassinate anyone. And they continue to act on that intelligence. I don't know that it's escalation. I think these are targets that are probably planned by Israel. But again, they're illegal targets. They're illegal under international law. They're illegal under nuclear agreements. You cannot target nuclear facilities. For example, if Iran were to target Dimona, the world would be up in arms because it's illegal. And perhaps they should now because, Israel has targeted their nuclear facilities.
Before I let you go, Mr. Faraj, you've described Iran's recent strikes on Israel not just as retaliation, but as the beginning of a wider conflict. So from both a legal and regional security perspective, what does this mean in practice? And where do we go from here?
Look, I think that's a much deeper conversation, Reagan. Iran serves as a major oil and gas supplier to China. And ultimately, the world today pits the United States against China. Those are the two major competitors. I sit here as an American aware that my country is in competition with China. And not necessarily militarily, but economically. And of course, that's what Donald Trump is interested in. If you take China out of the equation, if you take Iran, if what happened in Syria happens in Iran, where you remove the government and it becomes sort of in the camp of the United States. That means the U.S. gets to control or has some control over the resources that China needs. Now, they might find other sources, but it's a dangerous development. And I fear that continued escalation is going to result to a much wider conflict. How wide, I really can't anticipate. Certainly, we know that Iran is capable of targeting some of the U.S. bases and ships around the region. Let me share, there's been some conversation about the 2-week delay in the decision. That also buys the United States time to move some of its troops from the region, so that if there is an engagement, a direct engagement by the United States, you at least save the troops. You're going to lose the facilities, but you save the troops. So that's aircraft and personnel are being relocated and moved, and I think that's one of the reasons for the 2 weeks. So I hope that answers your question. I kind of gave you more than you asked for, but I think it's a much deeper conversation also.
Appreciate the insight there, Mr. Faraj, Haytham Faraj, there for us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Reagan. Nice to be with you.